What's cracking, guys? Bruce Matson here, your host of the show of Metric Scout Fantasy Football. Today, we're going to carry on with our Prospect Profile series, and today we're going to be talking about George Pickens, wide receiver from Georgia. One of my favorite wide receivers prospects in this class. Been on to him for a bit. Coming out of high school, he was a 5-star recruit. 247 Sports had him rated as a wide receiver 4 in the 2019 class. So this was a big-time prospect coming out. During his freshman season at Georgia, he caught 49 balls for 727 yards and 8 touchdowns. This was his breakout season. He's one of the few wide receivers in this rookie class. I think we only got 3 of them out of like the top 20 wide receivers that broke out at age 18. I'm thinking Justin Ross, David Bell, and George Pickens here. He had a 23.29% market share of Georgia's passing production, only 727 yards. You got to remember, back then, Georgia didn't pass the ball much. They were very anemic in the passing game, so owning a large ownership of the passing workload does not look as fantastic from a counting stat perspective, but he did it. Sophomore season looked good as well. Remember, this was the COVID year, less games played, caught 36 balls, 513 yards, 6 touchdowns. However, surpassed the 20% market share threshold, had a 20.53% market share of Georgia's passing production, 1.68 yards per route ran, and 3.4 yards after the catch per reception. So not a bad season there for George Pickens. And then we went into 2021, his junior year, which was this season. Didn't play until it was the playoffs. And honestly, the torn ACL jacked up the season. It really jacked up how he's being valued now in rookie drafts. I imagine if he was playing this year, putting up that tape, putting up those highlights all season long, I imagine he'd be considered one of the top wide receivers in this class. I imagine he'd be up there with the Treylon Burks, the Drake Londons, Jameson Williams, the top guys up there. I imagine more people will be clamoring his names. You'll scroll social media, you'll see some people, you'll see pockets of the internet talking about him as the 101. He has the potential of that. He has the potential. He has like the feet of Garrett Wilson, and yet the ball skills of Drake London. He's got a lot going on for him. You look at him on tape, one thing that people don't talk much about George Pickens is his route running. He's very good at it. He's good at selling his routes for his size. He's good at getting in and out of breaks. He has very strong hands. This dude plays with a lot of dog in him. You see him push dudes down. You'll see him get into fights after plays. You like that with your wide receivers. Kind of like a Deebo Samuel, kind of like an A.J. Brown. These aggressive wide receivers at the catch point, they've been getting it done lately, especially along the middle of the field at the NFL level. He's got ball skills. The ball's in the air. He's probably going to come down with it. He's going to get in between the path of the defender and the ball and come down. Like, you're not going to work through this guy. You're not going to press up on him. He's not going to allow you to derail him off his route. George Pickens is a dog, and he plays tough. He's very physical, especially when the ball's in the air, and especially during press coverage. That's what I like about his game. And he looks the part when he's on the field playing, when he's running routes, when you're seeing him in warm-ups. You can tell he is the athlete of the team. You can tell he's the top dog wide receiver out there. And George Pickens just has that it factor look to him. Whether he becomes the it factor or not, that's a different story, but he just has that look, that appeal when you watch him play. When we talk about his rookie draft value, he's falling to the latter portion of the first round of rookie drafts, sometimes falling out of it. Sometimes he's around the 108, 107 range. It really depends on who you're drafting with. I'm doing a lot of mocks, so I kind of see everything. So in Superflex, though, he is pretty much a second rounder. The quarterbacks is diluting the wide receivers back a little bit. He's going to be an early second rounder. I have a good feel that he may get a pump in value if he goes to a good situation, gets some opportunity. I look for him to get second round draft capital. I feel like he has the chance to be like an alpha flanker for his team when he gets drafted, once he gets inserted in his new offensive system. I don't see him being super versatile. He wasn't super versatile at the collegiate level, but I feel like he can play in the slot. And when I mean in the slot, I'm talking about how we currently have bigger wide receivers lined up in the slot. Considering we're in 3 wide receiver sets 80% of the time, you put your bigger wide receiver in the slot, you let him run routes, you create mismatches. I imagine if you get him on a squad that is very poetic with how they want to scheme their receivers and they put him in the slot, put him outside, mix him around, I believe he can be very successful. Considering how much dog he has, if you get him lined up over the middle, running slants, running some skinny posts, and getting him in those one-on-one situations with the ball in the air, that could be a dangerous situation for defenses, especially if he outmuscles that defender, he could house it. That's something we could see. If he goes to an offensive system that is more air raid, that likes to mix it up, this could be a good thing for Pickens, because we didn't have that at Georgia. We had him line up on the outside most of the time, one-on-one, and jump ball it out, make plays, run routes, all that stuff. But, man, if they scheme him up and put him in the best situation for him to succeed, we could be getting a monster wide receiver here. Honestly, there's no reason why we shouldn't be pairing Pickens with the top wide receivers in this class. We're talking about Drake London, Treylon Burks. He's up there. If it wasn't for the ACL injury, then everyone would be comparing him there. He probably should be there anyways. You go watch the highlights. You go watch the tape. Doesn't matter what you're looking at. He pops. His tape, the highlights, everyone's highlights look good, but when you see his highlights look a little bit better. They're a little bit more flashy. There's a reason for that. It's because he's a very smooth wide receiver prospect. He can make big plays happen, and George Pickens is one of those guys. He was considered like a wide receiver 1, 2, 3 in Devy for years. The ACL happened. It really put a number on his stock portfolio in this rookie draft class, but George Pickens shouldn't have to prove himself again. If anything, it proved that he has a lot of dog in him. He's willing to come back from anything, showcase what he can do in the playoffs after a ACL injury that put him out. And now we're going into the draft season. We're going into the combine. We're going into pro days. And honestly, he's going to prove himself even more. I imagine he's going to rise boards once we get through the combine. He's going to look good. I imagine he's going to post decent numbers there. And I'm excited for George Pickens. And I hope he continues to be at this value, because I'm going to be drafting him a lot, especially in this back portion of the first round. I feel like there's a lot of gold back there. I think George Pickens is one of those players that we can go after. There's a large array of outcomes with him, but with a lot of these wide receivers, the outcomes are pretty wide if you really think about it. But George Pickens, the upside is grand. You're talking about a wide receiver 1 at the NFL level if everything goes his way. And I'm talking top-tier wide receiver 1 at the NFL level. Not one of those guys who have a bunch of wide receiver 2 weeks and one blow-up week, and then all of a sudden, points per game, he's a wide receiver 1. I'm talking about a dynamic asset like an A.J. Brown type of player. That's what we're looking at with George Pickens. That is the potential upside with George Pickens. And I want to shoot for that upside, especially the later part of rookie drafts, and just see what I can get out of him. But I like George Pickens a lot. One of my favorite wide receivers in this class. I'm going to be shooting my shot on him a lot in drafts, and I imagine I'm going to have a portfolio with a lot of stock in his game. But I want to thank you for watching the show, sticking with me. Let me know in the comments what you think about George Pickens, because he's been a conundrum among the Dynasty community. A lot of people has not been mentioning him much, even though they don't know what to think about him or what. A lot of people are high on him. Just let me know what you think. Drop in the comments. Drop me some likes and all that. But I want to thank you for watching the show. But make sure you hit that subscribe button on the way out. Every subscription matters. It fuels me to keep putting out this content. Fuels me to keep doing these prospect profiles, grinding the tape, grinding the metrics, and everything else. Again, I want to thank you, and I'll catch you next time.